Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube video. Or my YouTube channel for that matter. So this video is going to be very chill. I'm out of breath because I had to change the batteries on my camera. But this video is going to be very chill. It's going to be unedited, at least I hope it is, because it's Wednesday, 9:20 at night. Got back from church, ate a little bit, and I was playing the ukulele and I was like, you know what, I better film my video. So I was going to film this last night, but last night I wasn't doing too good as a person and spiritually. So I'm going to unedit to this video because I don't have any time. So yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and get right into it. So this video, as the title, is going to be on God's compassion, and as you've seen, it says what God's compassion never does. So that's what I'm going to get into today. 5 things God's compassion never does. So the first thing is God's compassion never fails. This comes from Lamentations 3:22-23, and it says, "Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassion never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. In your weakest moments, remember the Lord's love and his compassion. Because of this, you will not be consumed." Lamentations is a guy, Saul, I believe it was either David or Saul, or no, it starts with an S. They were lamenting, and it was Lamentations very sorrowful, but because he was lamenting, which is okay to lament, it's good to share your feelings, but he wasn't consumed with all of his sorrow and his heartache because he remembered the Lord's great love. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. And that is great, and that is awesome, and I'm so thankful that his compassion never fails, because there are many times that he can not comfort us, not give us compassion, because we fail him time and time again, but his compassion and his love never fails. And I hope that you remember that in your weakest moments, because that is when you definitely need it most. And you also need it in your strongest moments, because you're only strong with him, so you definitely need to keep that in mind, that his compassion never fails, and they are new every single morning, and great is his faithfulness. Second thing God's compassion never does is it never shows favoritism. This comes from Psalm 103:13, and it says, "As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him." Because we are his children, there is no favoritism. He is the example of every father. So a father, however many kids they have, they do not have a favorite. If he is a good and righteous and holy man of God, and is a father, he does not have a favorite. God doesn't have a favorite. God could probably have tons of favorites, but he doesn't. We're all precious in his eyes. We're all made in the image of God, and he does not show favoritism. It says, as a father has compassion on his children. We are his children. God is our father. So the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. Now, it doesn't mean that that those who don't fear him, the Lord doesn't show compassion, but it just says specifically that those who fear him, the Lord will show compassion. So he is the example of every father out there. If you're a father, if you want to be a father, and I really hope that I do have a male audience out there, and not just women and girls and ladies. But yeah, God is the example of every father and how a father should act and carry himself. So yeah, this is a very good verse. This is Psalm 103:13. So the third thing that God's compassion never does is it never withholds. This comes from 2 Corinthians 1:4-5, and it says, "Who comforts us in all our troubles, God, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. For just as we share abundantly in the sufferings of Christ, so also our comfort abounds through Christ." If we comfort another I can't read my own writing. If we comfort one another and are right with God, it is not our power but God's. God will not keep the power to comfort to himself, but will abundantly give you that ability. Comfort abounds through Christ, not us, but God. So it says here, for just as we share abundantly in the sufferings of Christ. So Jesus was here on this earth, Jesus is Christ, God is Christ, they're 3 in 1, all the same. They just have different names. As we share abundantly in the sufferings of Christ, God experienced sorry, that's my phone. God experienced, I'm going to put that on vibrate just for you so that way you don't have to hear that. Anyways, God was here on this earth. Jesus himself was here on this earth walking. He endured temptations, he endured cruelness, he endured criticism, he endured rude people, he endured mean people, and we endure that every single day, and so did he in his 32 years that he was here on this earth, or 33 years before he died on the cross. So as we share abundantly in the sufferings of Christ, so also our comfort abounds through Christ. Through Christ, we can comfort those in need. If we're right with God, we can comfort through Christ. Now, if we're not right with God, we can definitely not comfort because we don't have God on our side. Now, I don't mean like God is not like always on our side, but we can comfort because of him, and if we're right with him and we're in his word and we're talking to him daily, we will know how to comfort. That's what I'm trying to get at. If we're talking to him every day, we know exactly what his heart wants. We know exactly what he wants us to do for that day. So this wasn't I have fingerprints on the camera lens. Let me just check you for a second. I said this wasn't going to be edited, but my memory card ran out of memory, so I had to erase some pictures and jump back on here. So anyways, as I was saying, in your journey of life, it will not be displayed on a big sign what you are to do that day. God will give you step by step what you need. Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Psalm 119:109. And he uses light and lamp as an example because God will light our way each step that we take. My grandmother used to teach children's church, and she demonstrated by turning off the lights and how you use a flashlight. You use your flashlight one step at a time to see below you, to see ahead of you, and you're only guided one step at a time, and that is how God's word works. God's word is our light, should be the light of our lives, and that is how we figure out what to do for that day. So yeah, just know that it is not through your power that you can comfort. If that is one of your spiritual gifts, just know that it is not from yourself, it is from God, because God is the only one who can do that. And since we share in the sufferings of Christ, we can also share in his comfort abilities. So yeah, not us, but God. The fourth thing that God's compassion never does is it's never empty. This comes from 1 John 3:18, and that says, "Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth." I bet you're probably wondering, that doesn't have the word compassion in it, but here's what I'm getting at. God's compassion comes from love. He never just says something, he does something. Christ is our example to show compassion. Actions speak louder. You probably hear that all the time. Actions speak louder than words, and that is definitely true. Actions leave a imprint on our heart. Now words do also, but mostly, kind words, they last for a long time, but soon they can go away. But hurtful words, they stay forever. I know hurtful words from me that were given to me has stayed with me for forever, and kind words, you remember them every so often, but yeah, actions definitely speak louder than words. If someone does something for you, you'll never forget it, and that is why I chose this verse. Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. This is what I said. Compassion comes from love. You can't comfort someone if you don't love them. Now, if they're your enemy, but you still love them, even if they're your enemy, if you're right with God, and you know God's word, so you definitely love them. So love equals compassion, and love comes from compassion, or compassion comes from love, I should say. So yeah, that is why I chose this verse, 1 John 3:18. And the last thing that God's compassion never does, which is my favorite, is God's compassion never condemns. So this is a story coming from John 11. This was when Lazarus died, and Mary and Mary Magdalene, they're very heartbroken about it because this was their brother, and they called Jesus over there, and Jesus came, and when Jesus came there, this is what Martha said in verses 21 through 25. This is Martha and Jesus' conversation. "Lord," Martha said to Jesus, "if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha answered, "I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this?" Jesus didn't condemn Mary for unbelief. He spoke with compassion. God also shares in our hurt and understands. This is why he is the great comforter. So yeah, Jesus didn't condemn Mary for unbelief. He spoke with compassion. All he said. Okay, so storage ran out again. Anyways, so yeah, Jesus didn't condemn Mary for her unbelief, because this is what she said. She said, if you had been here, he wouldn't have died. And yeah, so he didn't condemn her. And so this also contains one of the shortest verses in the Bible. I believe it's verse 32, and it says, Jesus wept. And that has a huge meaning. It means that God shares in our hurt and our sorrow, and that it is okay to cry, and it's okay to feel sad about losing someone, or losing just a friend through not like death or just by friendship. But yeah, so he understands. I wrote this in big letters on my booklet or my journal. He understands, and that is the great thing about God. And the reason he is the great comforter is because he understands, and God sent Jesus here on this earth so that way he would understand, and he could share in our sufferings, so that way we could abundantly have something in common with him, and how he can comfort us. And it's just amazing and so hard to explain because it's so big and so great. But anyways, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Share it with your friends if they need some comforting. Like it. I already said that. Wow, I'm great. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I love you so much, and I hope that you know that God will comfort you if you're experiencing anything that is making you sad. So yeah, I love you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Jesus loves you more than you could ever know.